Hi there. I'm Stephanie Sage. Welcome to the Stephanie Sage Show. This is episode number 7, and my guest today is Dr. Michelle Robin. For nearly 3 decades, she has been an international speaker, a best-selling author, a practicing chiropractor, and founder of Your Wellness Connection. That is one of the nation's most successful interactive healing centers in the U.S. The center focuses on chiropractic care, energy medicine, Chinese medicine, counseling, massage therapy, and also nutrition and wellness coaching. And today, Dr. Robin is going to talk to us today about self-care. So I'm going to bring her on right now. There she is.
Hi, Stephanie.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Doing wonderful. I'm actually getting over a little cold, so that's been kind of a bummer, but can't complain too much.
Well, we're going to talk about self-care today, and I liked your self-care sign back there. When in doubt, dance it out.
Yes, for sure. Always stay active. That is crucial, I think, to staying healthy and staying young. What do you think?
Well, without a doubt, we know that motion is lotion, and I actually have a sign that says, when in doubt, hug it out.
Aww.
So I love it. But yes, motion is lotion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So staying active definitely, I think, is even more important when you come across a serious illness, especially as you age. Do you find that to be crucial? Is just taking care of your body over time and staying active and fit?
It's kind of like taking care of a house. This is a house that we have. It has a structure, a frame, and then it has the stuff inside, the plumbing, the engineering, all that make it work. And so it's important to make sure that you are taking care of all the different aspects.
Uh-huh.
And so, one of the aspects is motion, is getting exercise, and it's not just and I find that it kind of adds up like a checking, over time.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, hell yes. Hell yes.
I love that. Yeah. And I love your saying, when I go in to get my back adjusted or get a massage, I love your shirt, be good to people, because that is so true. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do my show, is just to kind of, reach out to people that may be struggling, need to be uplifted with some positive shows and experiences of other people and advice. So, we need to be good to each other.
Well, without a doubt. And so once again, looking at it from this whole person perspective, I look at it from mechanical, chemical, energetical, psychospiritual. And how do we mechanically take care of ourselves? How do we chemically take care of ourselves? Mm-hmm. How do we energetically and how do we psycho-spiritually take care of ourselves? So that when we come along these bumps in the road, like a pandemic or a flood, mm-hmm. or a bike accident, mm-hmm. Or a change in staff or a death of a parent or a divorce, mm-hmm. that we're able to recover faster. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have any resiliency built up,
yeah.
If you don't have any savings built up, then you have trouble recovering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think that this kind of goes along maybe with the spirituality, but just staying positive and having a positive attitude. I mean, that helps me through many times in my life when I've had challenges. And right now I'm dealing with, my mother's ailing and, it's not looking too good for her. But I think that having a positive attitude and a belief in your faith or spirituality definitely gets you through those tough times.
Mindset matters. And mm-hmm. For instance, I recently had a little boating accident, and I know you have a boat in the lake too, and mm-hmm. tried to cut off my little toe. And I kept telling myself, the first part would go into fear. Mm-hmm. Am I going to get an infection? Is it going to heal? Am I going to be able to play pickleball again? How am I going to stand all day? All the negative stuff that comes in. And then there's the positive side. I'm like, Michelle, the truth. The power that made the body heals the body.
Yeah.
You're just going to do all the right things to have that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe for myself that the mindset and healing my heart has been the number one thing I've done for self-care mm-hmm. in my own journey.
Yeah. So how did your accident happen?
On the boat?
Yeah. I mean, tell me about that if you want to.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's a little embarrassing. I'm kind of looking at my little toe because it's still healing right now. But I jumped off the boat trying to get my dog's ball. A little boy threw my dog's ball in the water.
Oh.
Took it out. It was just a perfect storm.
Mhm.
And the boat cleat, where you tie the rope around, kind
Uh-huh.
of my toe got caught there, um,
Oh.
yeah, it's the good news is it's still attached. I
Yeah.
remember swimming to the back of the boat, telling and everybody heard it, and I
Oh.
I said to Crystal, I said, I think my little toe came off, and she said, no, it's still attached, barely, but it's still attached. And so we kind of laugh about that. And the good news is I'm in medicine. I
Yes.
knew to get it up right away, and I knew it'd coagulate and
Um,
help to start heal. And thank goodness that there's times when you have to go to the emergency room. And so
yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Advent Health's emergency room off of Metcalf in college. They did a fabulous job.
Mhm.
Fabulous job sewing it back on, and I was back to work the next morning. Didn't miss a beat.
Well,
Except,
you're a trooper then.
yeah, except I think that people don't realize how things impact you. So
Mhm.
my definition of well-being, Stephanie, is where your mind, body, spirit don't get in your way.
Mhm.
Okay, and when you have the I want to call it the distraction of a
Mhm.
toe, or you have a distraction of a parent,
Mhm.
or you have a distraction of a relationship issue, or of
Mhm.
a flooding issue, or of a pandemic, or of a bellyache, or a headache, or anxiety, it's
Mhm.
really hard to be fully present. And
Mhm.
so, I'm fortunate. I've not had a lot of bad physical stuff happen to me,
Mhm.
but I'm keenly aware that my attitude matters in the way you think about it. So
Mhm.
um, that's how it happened. But the good news is it's healing, and I'm
Yes.
back to playing pickleball. That's
Oh,
a
that's awesome.
yeah.
Is that your favorite sport to play now? Is pickleball? I've never played it.
Oh, oh my gosh, yes, yes. What I love about it, it's active enough.
Mhm.
I love you can do it in community.
Uh-huh.
Um, I also love that. I can't be thinking about work. I have
Mhm.
this disease. I like to work a lot because I'm very passionate. I'm very
Mhm.
called to the work I get to do. But my body needs a break. So does my
Mhm.
spirit from it. So pickleball is yes, it's my hobby and my
Mhm.
habit and my drug of choice right now.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, when you're a type A, yeah, you definitely have to find distractions from work. My distraction several years ago is I ended up in the hospital with appendicitis that burst, and I was in the hospital 10 days. So that was my wake up call to listen to that little voice, that self care that I was ignoring, saying, quit working so hard. So sometimes your body will step in and say, you will stop working so hard. And that was a blessing, but at least I didn't have a heart attack or stroke. But yeah, it's all part of self care and listening to yourself and taking that time off for sure.
Well, there's a saying: either you make time or your body will make time for you.
Hmm.
And so that's what happened for you. And
Hmm.
the other saying is either pay as you go, or your body gives you a big bill later.
Yeah,
And
that's probably
so,
really true.
how could we truly honor self care? We're in a fascinating time right now where self care is really a big deal.
Hmm.
Well being has skyrocketed. Uh,
Hmm.
Mostly because of it was heading there, but I think the pandemic as well as the anxiety
Hmm.
we have an epidemic of loneliness right now,
That's so sad.
and that's what's kind
Yeah.
of the foundation of anxiety and depression is loneliness.
Hmm.
And so and then you have all the other stuff going on. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, I
it's
know
big.
we've noticed where we work out, it was right by a Walgreens, and it just seems like the line of cars just gets longer and longer. Like, and it's just crazy just how people line up, and there's pharmacies on every corner. That's a little concerning to me because I know you're about some alternative medicine, right? Versus just prescriptions and, you know.
Yeah, we don't really like to call it alternative. It's
Uh-huh.
funny that we call the medicine that we do, which is try to remove interferences, we
Uh-huh.
call it alternative when drugging and cutting things out is the normal.
Okay.
And like I said, thank God that at Advent Health they took great care and sewed my toe back on,
Hmm.
so I don't have any
Exactly.
infection. I'm able to use it. And so we in holistic medicine believe that the power that made the body heals the body. You have to
Hmm.
remove the interferences,
Uh-huh.
whether it is the wrong food. Like there's a really common food that causes a lot of autoimmune issues,
Uh-huh.
gluten. Okay, for many reasons, a whole nother class. But sometimes we have to remove that interference that we're putting in our body. So it's what we're putting in our body, whether it's a drug or whether it's a supplement. Supplements can also be toxic, or it could be a food, or it could be a thought we're having, or it could be stuff we're putting on our body. And so with holistic medicine, we believe that you have to listen to your body and you've got to give it what it needs to thrive. We call it purity and sufficiency, whether it needs more love, needs more motion, needs the right fuel. And so, so I wouldn't really call us alternative. I would call us just trying to listen to the body's needs. And
Right.
hopefully, if people do that, they can avoid drugs and surgery. In the event they can't, that they have a wise community of physicians that can guide them.
Yeah. Why did you decide to go into being a chiropractor? What led you in this path of wellness and health?
Oh gosh, you know, it really God, but I got hurt at the age of 15 playing sports.
Uh-huh.
I went to high school in a small town, not from there, but I went to high school in Parsons, Kansas, which some of your listeners will have heard of. And my mom took me to the hospital, nothing was broken. Then she took me to the chiropractor. I knew the chiropractor because I taught his kids bowling lessons. Stephanie, I don't remember anything about the chiropractic experience where somebody gets adjusted and we remove the interference of the nervous system. What I remember is how they made me feel. And I was a kid at risk. Mom had some drama and trauma. Married, by that time, she's married 3 times and she was just going through her 3rd divorce. And I was 15 years old. And I didn't ever feel like I was wanted or loved.
Oh,
You know? And Dr. John and his wife Carol, they loved me, you know, and they just started pouring words of affirmation into me. They would say to me, Michelle, you can be anything you want to be. And I was at that time working to start to support myself because I moved out when I was 16.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I went into chiropractic because I loved watching how people would come in and they would be defeated physically or mentally, and they'd walk out having hope and a smile. And I believe that most of us want to make a difference. And Dr. John and Carol, they made a big difference in my life. I'm looking at Carol. I've got a wall over here in my studio that says "Your vibe attracts your tribe," and I'm looking at Carol. John is since deceased, Dr. John. That's why I became a chiropractor, and that's 40 years ago.
Wow.
And it's emotional for me because I am so blessed that I get to do this work.
Yeah. Well, you're blessed too because that you found people that believed in you. Because they say when people, kids are struggling and maybe feel a lack of direction or don't feel loved or come from a dysfunctional family with problems, what have you, if they have one person outside their family, they can make a difference in that person's life and change their whole life because they found somebody that actually believes in them and tells them they can do anything, and that's a blessing because not everybody comes across the right person that will do that for them.
Well, I think you have to also be aware, and I think with age comes wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that a lot of us may have that teacher or we may not feel like we're worthy of it. And then sometimes it's right under our nose, but we can't see it or smell it because we think it's going to be some big announcement. There's a story about a flood and it goes like this. You probably have heard it. There's a flood coming and the neighbor comes by and says, "Hey, Stephanie, let's go with us. There's a flood coming." And then the police come by and say, "Hey, you got to get out." And they're waiting for some big sign from, let's say, God to come in. And then there's a fire, whatever, with a ladder. And then there's a helicopter. And then the person dies, they drown, they get to heaven. And God says, "What more do you want me to do? I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. I sent you the firemen with a ladder." And so sometimes you've got to look around and see the good. And Mr. Rogers talks about always look for the helpers. And Stephanie, I'm guessing that you had a helper in your life that poured into you. Is that true?
Oh, not really. I really can't think of anybody that really mentored me. I come from a really dysfunctional family, and we had lots of issues and challenges going on. I just am a person that I'm just naturally a survivor, and I just learned early on how to overcome adversity and just kind of learned to take care of myself. And
Well,
just
was there a book? Was there a book? Was there a teacher? Was there? Do you remember that defining moment where you went? I'm making a decision today
Mhm.
to have my life be different. And I remember I started making little decisions throughout my life that said, you know what, my life is going to be different.
Mhm.
I'm from the way I was raised, and I have a ton of compassion for my mother. Um,
Mhm.
and this is no judgment.
Right, right.
I feel like my soul picked her as my mother, so I'd be here in this conversation with you today. So
Mhm.
I don't know if you think if there was a book or a teacher or that back then we didn't have podcasts, but
No.
anything like that. You just had the will inside of you.
Yeah, I did. I just learned that, well, I'd say I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, and I've always naturally been a positive person, and which is a huge blessing. But I just learned to take every experience that happened to me and like a bad experience, and use it to make myself a better, stronger person. I was in high school, and I don't know why that just came into my mind, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just not going to let anything stop me from carrying on my life and being successful and not being jaded or letting it hold me back. I don't know. I've had people and, people I've looked up to, through the years, but I don't
Yeah.
know. That's a good question. Maybe I should really think through that a little bit more.
Yeah, one of the assignments that I have, and I talk about it in my second book called The E Factor: Engage, Energize, Enrich, 3 Steps to Vibrant Health, is to kind of look at your story. And I think part of healing is not necessarily reliving the past, but being
Hmm.
aware of it.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was able to think about the people, the helpers that came along in my life, whether it was the nun or whether it was the neighbor or whether it was a teacher or
Hmm.
like I used to babysit for this family who became mentors of mine. And so I believe we have to reflect
Hmm.
so that
Oh,
we
yeah.
could, see why we're, just like with our body, there's very rarely does someone come in and
Hmm.
their health just went bad like that.
Yeah.
Rarely. It happens, maybe an
Hmm.
accident, but it usually is progressing.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and say, holy sugar, you know, what happened?
Yeah.
I'm heavier than I've ever been. Where's that
Hmm.
25 pounds? I'm all of a sudden I'm wearing a size 12 instead of a size 8 or 10 or
Hmm.
whatever. And it's that awareness. And I think we're so numb as society that
Hmm.
we don't pay attention. Let
Right.
alone do we pay attention to the person walking in behind us to get the door for them, but do we pay attention to the things that are around us? So I would encourage your listeners to think about paying attention and going back and looking at um, the people that have been brought into our lives.
Well, most definitely.
Yeah. So
But
like
they're brought
Dr.
there for a reason. I
Yeah,
mean, I do believe in that you definitely meet the right people or the wrong people at the right times that you need to be aware of too. Because I definitely
yeah,
probably have hung out with some people I shouldn't have when I was younger. But, you
yeah,
know, but yeah, no, there's definitely people that can make a difference. And that's kind of part of my show too. Because, you never know what you say, and need to be careful with your thoughts and what you say, because you never know what you may make a little quip and you could just totally ruin somebody's day or make somebody's day by just saying something nice or just extending some kindness along the way. I guess, a lot of people struggle. I mean, from my background, I always kind of felt I wasn't one of the crowd because I was like one of the poor kids at school, and I think a lot of times what happens to you, it takes a lot to get out of that mindset of like how you let that define you. You know what I'm saying? And you can carry stuff with you, and it can be kind of dangerous.
I do. It makes me think of a book, and I want to be totally transparent. I've not read the book. Probably bought it a couple times, but I don't know about you. I'm looking at about 20 books within eyeshot of me here.
Hmm.
Um, but it was called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And I
Hmm.
heard about that book about 25 years ago from my minister, Mary Omwake.
Hmm.
And she asked 5 questions. And so this is a question I actually was just repeating to somebody earlier today. And the book's called Loving What Is. And it isn't really true. That person's not returning my call. Is it because
Right.
they don't like me? I must not be
Hmm.
important to them. And the question is it really true? No, that's not really true. We don't have the
Right.
facts of that. The facts are they may be busy,
Right.
or they think you're busy,
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. So I believe that you're so right on with this head, this
Mm-hmm.
right here. How do we can help put the
Mm-hmm.
good stuff in here so
Yeah.
that the negative committee is not trashing us. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's just limiting those self-limiting beliefs. And I just think we live with a certain amount of programming too, just through our parents, our religion we're brought up in, maybe, or the school you go to, or the little town or the big city you live in. I mean, there's all kinds of programming that you're taught. Maybe you should be this way, instead of listening to that inner self, or taking, I guess, a form of self care and doing what feels right to you. Right.
Well, when you think about those limiting beliefs, it's
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we have a limited exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate. I moved a lot as a kid, and for years I thought that was not a great thing. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I kind of like change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's helped. I don't get too stale. If I go on a trip and I want to come home 3 hours early, I'll change my flight because three
Right.
hours is 3 hours. Life
Mm-hmm.
is short, right? When you really think
Yep.
about how many days you get to live. And so, and you've got to surround yourself around people that don't look like you, that
Yeah,
have different
that's good. Yeah.
beliefs than you have, so you can be
Mm-hmm.
challenged
Mm-hmm.
and have to think about your belief system in your own head. At the
Right.
same time, I do think it's important that we remain to be kind. I either say one of
Mm-hmm.
my greatest values is that we treat each other with respect and we're kind to each
Mm-hmm.
other,
For
even
sure.
if we disagree.
Right.
And I think we're seeing that that's been a little bit more impossible for people lately.
Yeah.
So the beliefs that we've got to challenge those, and I had to challenge my own beliefs. And when I was 31, I had a great practice, but I was dead inside. There's so many people
Mhm.
going through the motions,
Yeah.
but we're not really alive, and we're not realizing how magnificent it is in this moment. If we really think
Mm-hmm.
about how magnificent it is, I could talk to you, I could
Mm-hmm.
hear you, I could blink. I'm digesting my lunch I just ate
Mm-hmm.
because of how magnificent this body is, but yet we don't think life's a miracle. And so
Right. Exactly.
we are this big miracle that we can even have this conversation, and we're doing it via Zoom, and we're connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people like Patrice and Kevin and Burton. Hello, Jen, listening to us today. Um, Hopefully getting some thought of inspiration that will help them in this moment, or they share it with their friends. So yes, and yes and no. We've got to be really intentional about how we heal our heart. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. I was walking around dead. I thought that once I, had a degree and I had money and I had a practice and people thought I was the cat's meow, that I'd be happy. Well, the deal is I wasn't. I was
Mm-hmm.
still walking around dead inside. It was never going to be an outside job. In
Mm-hmm.
order for you to heal and have self-care, it's got to be an inside job. You've got to get right with you
Mm-hmm.
so that you're able to truly show up for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And
Yeah.
that's,
Stand in your own truth, your sovereignty, and yeah. Well, we always need to be growing as people and maturing because we're evolving. We're never static. How boring would that be? And then your life changes too, and your experiences you're going through, or what have you. Right? I mean, you should always be changing. I think life would be really boring if you just stay the exact same. For me, anyway. I'm with you on that. I have to be. I actually have a fear of being bored. I think I'm always trying to make sure I'm staying busy, but then you have to kind of curb that too because you can get too crazy and get too busy, and that's definitely not a form of self care. But
yeah. I think about having full lives. People say you're busy. You know what? I have a full life.
mhm,
But it's not that I'm running from something, or, I'm running to my calling. I'm
mhm,
running to my purpose. I'm
mhm,
not running from the fear that I'm not enough anymore. And
right,
that's just evolved over the last
yeah.
decade, and I'm grateful.
Mhm.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. A year ago, I just felt a calling to do this show. And I feel like, you reach a limit with success and you realize that success is important in your career, what have you. But it's more also about, like you just mentioned, finding your true purpose. Why truly are you here? You're a chiropractor. I own a restoration company, and that you can't just let that define you because we're all here, I think, for a deeper reason, whether it's God, your source, what have you, and it's listening to that because I think that's how you're going to find fulfillment is truly, what is your calling on earth? How are you here to help others and serve others?
Well, it's hard to really find that when you're running. I think for me, my calling is, I get to do it through chiropractic because it helps me pay my bills.
Mhm.
And I love the chiropractic philosophy and I love the chiropractic lifestyle. But my true purpose is to bring positivity and light to any situation, whether it is at a stoplight and smiling at somebody or walking into a room. And I think about Mother Teresa or Jesus, how they would walk down the street and people would heal just by the presence, even blocks away. And so, how do we bring more good energy into
Yes.
our world?
Yeah, and that's another part of what I'm trying to do with my show, because I feel like there's so much negativity in the world, and people, like you were mentioned earlier, are really struggling with loneliness or depression. And I just feel more than ever, whether we are all different, but I think we're all more alike than we realize that we are. And if we can come together more in humanity as a collective and just keep lending a hand out, being there for each other, extending kindness. I just feel like it will be a better world when we come together instead of trying to find ways to be different or apart. I don't know. That's just not the answer the way I see it. So,
Well, ditto, I agree. And how do we, I'm with a group of women that we work on. We're trying to build bridges. How do we
mhm.
build bridges instead of forts, and not being able to keep people apart?
Yeah. I know you mentioned you have the four quadrants of well being. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you for asking that question. It's kind of my that's my life's work. And when I was in chiropractic school, I moved to Kansas City 33 years ago to go to chiropractic college, and I met a guy named Dr. Richard Yenny. Dr. Yenny was a chiropractor acupuncturist, and he was from Independence, Missouri, and he was President Truman's interpreter. So as a young man, he was um, he was taken by the Asian lifestyle. He could write the Mandarin. He could speak Mandarin, write the calligraphies, and actually he was Irish American, but he looked Asian when he died. I'm also looking at him right over here. He's over my right shoulder as well. But Dr. Yenny, he came to talk at the chiropractic college, and Stephanie, I was enamored. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm buying what he's selling, and that's how you find mentors in life. You get people that you're attracted to. And I remember I kind of stalked his assistant, Pat, and Dr. Yani's also deceased, but Pat's still alive. So, Pat, I'm giving you a shout out right now. And I stalked her to work for her. I said, you know what? I'll work for free. I just want to be around it because success leaves clues. How can it
Mhm.
be around people that are doing great stuff? And so, at one time in class, I have a 300 hours of continuing education in acupuncture, which some people may or may not know. But he held up a manila envelope. I don't have a manila envelope, but I have some post-it notes here. So
Mhm.
I'm holding up, and it said four words. It said mechanical, chemical, energetic, psycho, spiritual. And I was like, and that's kind of the traditional Chinese medicine
Mhm.
model. And I see part of a sign behind me that shows it. But when you think about how do you mechanically take care of yourself, and so in the Asian philosophy, they would do something called Tui Na, which is like
Mhm.
a certain type of massage and motion and kind of create motion in the
Mhm.
spine. And they also looked at the way they did like qigong or tai chi and
Mhm.
some type of movement and walking. And they looked at the chemistry. They did chemistry through the food and through the teas and through the herbs they made.
Mhm.
And then they did the energy, okay, through this thing called acupuncture. And
Mhm.
acupuncture is where you stimulate certain points on the body and it it removes the interference. Once again, we'll go back to that word interference. And it helps your chi flow. And think
Mhm.
about your chi as like having a strawberry shake, okay, or it is Friday, maybe a strawberry daiquiri. And I don't know about you, but if we've had a strawberry shake, I'm going to go to a shake here, and you're taking it up, and all of a sudden you get a strawberry in the straw. Have you done that
Mhm.
before?
It's all clogged.
And you're still getting some of the shake, but not as much as you should, right?
Mhm.
I tell you, either take it out, and blow it out, or you suck the strawberry that's in the way in, and you drink it and you eat it. So then you think about, okay, that's the blocked energy. And so
Mhm.
your body's basically a bunch of straws. and it has this electrical magnetic field around it, but it gets blocked because of traumas or scar tissue. When I hurt my foot, Stephanie, the thing I thought about the Chinese meridian that goes around that toe.
Uh-huh.
And I thought about how it impacts my body.
Mm-hmm.
I got acupuncture right away to try to keep the flow going, because I know scar tissue creates a blocked energy.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there, in Chinese medicine, you got the mechanical, chemical, energy, and then they talked about the psycho spiritual side as well. And so my undergrad's in business. My chemistry teacher, Dr. Sarah, didn't think I had it in me to be a chiropractor because I'm not good at chemistry, and still not really good at chemistry, by the way.
I'm not either. That's up.
Tried to be. Thank you. So my undergrad's in business, and when you think about that, you think, well, what a business takes it takes quadrants, right? It takes operations, marketing, finance, and leadership. You can't run a good business with just operations. You got to have customers, and if you have customers, you got to deliver on the promise. And then you've got to be able to have the right financial resources to take care of those things. And you've got to have the right leadership. And so to me, I'm a CEO of my own well-being.
That's interesting take.
It's a well-being. So
I like that.
Yeah.
It's really, gosh, yeah, I love that because I love business. I love combining that with health. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you talk about too, small shifts make big changes in your life. So how'd you come up with that philosophy or that saying?
That phrase, small changes, big shifts. Yeah. And not to be confused with big shifts, you know what I mean? But anyhow, that's important too. So small changes, big shifts came about actually about 8 years ago, maybe 9. Somebody invited me, one of our friends, Kelly Scanlon, who I know you know Kelly too. She invited me to do a show underneath her channel on Blog Talk Radio, kind of before podcasts were really cool. And I thought, you know what, why not? And I had my first book out, Wellness on a Shoestring, had my second book out, E Factor. And so I started interviewing guests, and we thought, what are we doing? It's really about these small changes that will lead to big shifts. It's like saving money. You could rob a bank and get $1 million today, and probably go to jail, or not feel really good about yourself, or you can start saving money. And you just start saving more than you spend. And at the end of the day, if you put your head down and you look at your health account and you aren't moving, you're sitting way too much, you're drinking too much alcohol, too much soda, not getting enough live food. Think about vegetables as being building blocks, fruits as being cleansers. You need those every day to be well. And you are around negative people, and you're only putting in the news and not maybe podcasts or books or sayings, then you're not going to be well.
Right.
You're going to go into bankruptcy. And so the same thing is true with money. You've got to you got to do little things every day. You got to do more good than bad every day.
Yeah.
And hopefully some days you have a home run, you do lots of good. I'm not advocating, it is Friday, I'm not advocating that you don't have French fries ever again or a cocktail if you're not an addict. But I am advocating that you've got to not overspend your bank account probably 8 out of 10 days.
Right.
Okay? For sure, 6 out of 10, those are going to be going backwards.
Right.
And as we age, we start to decline anyway. Your body it's constantly regenerating until about the age 25. And then you start to slowly decline. And that decline.
At age 25?
Yeah.
Louise. That sounds so wrong.
Yeah. And so you got to decide, am I going to be able to do the things I want to do? Am I willing to put in the effort to have the life that I'm designed to have? And most of us aren't.
You say most of us are not? Most
of us are not.
Yeah. Because, it's easier to do the wrong things than the right things. That's always been one of my sayings. It's just, you have to have more discipline to do the things that you should do, I think, in life.
And you've got to be around the right people.
Yeah.
And you've got to believe you deserve it. And so it goes back to a lot of self-care and goes back to mindset, goes back to patterns.
Very true.
So that's where, the quadrants well-being, and once again, I'm looking at Dr. Yenny saying thank you, is Dr. Yenny he planted the seeds 32 years ago. And then over the last, probably 15 years, I've been writing wellness plans for people. And then over the last 5 or 6 years, when we celebrate my 25th year, we actually coined the word quadrants of well-being. And it's such a fun ride.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I
really is.
bet you help so many people. You're amazing. So what do you do with how does the wellness plan work? So you schedule an appointment with you and then you just do like an assessment about the 4 quadrants and where people are at or what their goals are?
Yeah. So I try to encourage. I also teach this to other providers because I don't. It's not about me getting patients. It's about me just helping people. But they can also get the book, The E Factor, Engage, Energize, Enrich, 3 Steps to Vibrant Health. If they email me, Michelle at smallchangesbigshifts.com, I'll even give them the book for free. Michelle at smallchangesbigshifts.com. But I take people through some assessments. So kind of, I need to know your story.
Mm-hmm.
What's your body been through? Okay. From a physical or a uh, emotional or chemical. Have you taken a lot of antibiotics? Do you have you had your gallbladder out? Have you had car accidents? And then
Mm-hmm.
we do some assessments. We'll maybe do an orthopedic exam, look at some spinal X-rays, kind of like the dentist looks at your uh,
Mm-hmm.
dental X-rays. Look, maybe have an acupuncturist kind of check out your chi to see how your chi is flowing. And
Mm-hmm.
then of course talk to you about the psychospiritual side, about what's keeping you stuck, and then look and start to write some ideas down. I was at lunch with a friend of mine, Jill Beckman, just absolutely love Jill. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, here's your goals the next 90. This is the time. We are 90 days from the end of 2021. For some people, it's been a very, very difficult
Mm-hmm.
18 to 20 months. And how can you shift that? Don't let the last 3 months of this year go unnoticed. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, this morning, after I played pickleball, I got adjusted. Then I went to see my friend Travis, and he gave me a new exercise routine based on my posture,
Uh-huh.
not exercises, stretches for me to do based on my current way I'm carrying my body. And
Mm-hmm.
that's my next 90-day plan. I said, now remind me 90 days to come back.
Mm-hmm.
He said, do you want to schedule? I said, no, just you call me. I'll come back in 90 days because I've become more disciplined because I value myself, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
not be that way, Stephanie. So I would say and I was with Jill, and I said, Jill, tell me what you're trying to do the next 90 days. And so we just sat over lunch and I said, well, here's some ideas. So I just love to brainstorm with people so they can
Mm-hmm.
maximize their well-being. Because when you feel better, Stephanie, your kids feel better. And when
Yeah.
your
Well,
kids,
everybody around you feels better.
then your grandkids feel
Yeah.
better. And when your grandkids feel better, then we start to minimize this loneliness epidemic we're having.
That's so
Um,
sad.
9 to 40-year-olds, 70% of 9 to 4 years are lonely. So how do we shift that? We shift it by being the ripple.
Wow. So what was that statistic? I can't talk. Statistic again? You just said 90% of what now?
70%,
Oh,
70% of 9 to 40-year-olds
wow.
are lonely.
That's crazy. So do you attribute that to COVID, what's been going on, or do you think it's like social media where people are too into their devices and they don't actually get out and engage in real life with people? Or I don't know.
Well, I think it's multifaceted. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's one thing. And we were heading that way before the pandemic. The pandemic threw gasoline on a fire that was burning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe if you look at it from a quadrant perspective, people aren't moving like they used to move. And you need to
Well,
move.
yeah.
When you move, and this is why I love being a chiropractor, the science shows that when you have fixations in your spine, it changes the amygdala,
Mm-hmm.
which changes your ability to handle anxiety.
Okay.
It's one reason why I get adjusted minimum every 2 weeks
I
because
need to get in there too.
it helps
You're
me
off.
manage. It helps me manage my anxiety.
Uh-huh.
And so many people, it's like only taking your car to the shop when it's breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And so this car, I'm trying to keep it going, else it's
Mm-hmm.
going to give me a big bill later, right? And so it's lack of motion. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
it's
It's detrimental.
it's chemistry wise, it's lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's the wrong fuel. I don't know about you, Stephanie, but when I was growing up, there was 3 things you didn't really have as a young person until you were 18: alcohol, coffee, and cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Right? But now the kids are getting those things earlier, whether it's vaping, whether it's Starbucks. I'm not bashing Starbucks,
Yeah.
but coffee was something we didn't have. And you think about how caffeine amps up
Mm-hmm.
the adrenals, and
Yeah.
especially some people can't handle it. So you got that aspect, and then you have a blood sugar crash, which
Mm-hmm.
creates that hangry feeling when people get
Mm-hmm.
hypoglycemic. Of course, then you have social media telling you of who you aren't instead of
Right.
saying, here's who you are and reflecting that. And then we
Who
have
you're
these
competing with.
devices. We have these devices that not only do they keep us disconnected, okay, but they also emit at a frequency from them
Right,
that
that they do.
that causes some vibrational issues. So I believe it's all those things. And plus parents have been busy, and I think sometimes, as you mentioned, you had dysfunction, I had dysfunction. You've got to be intentional about fixing that shift, right?
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
so I think there's many reasons why the pandemic just threw gasoline on a fire. The politics threw gasoline on a
Hmm.
fire. Fire. We see that with Black Lives Matter. There's just so much happening right now. You've got
I
to really
know.
stay grounded.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too limiting watching the news. I mean, because when you just hear negative, negative, negative,
Mhm.
not just the news, but in social media too, but just people arguing and fighting and negative talk and it just says it cannot be good for you mentally. And so I limit, what I watch. And in fact, Alan and I, many times we don't even watch TV at night. We just listen to music and read and just have some chill time, because I think watch way too much TV for sure.
Yeah, and get stuck in that. So how do we continue to feed good stuff? And I would love to
Hmm.
hear what your listeners are seeing that's good. I've
Hmm.
got some friends that are in media, and they're trying to find they want to see the good. They want to share the good news.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
We need people like us sharing the good news.
Yeah.
So that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, what types of small shifts do you recommend people put into practice in their lives? I mean, you kind of gone over some, I think.
Yeah. Well, I believe there's some non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so here would be some non-negotiables. One, start the day with water.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah, I
time
will
of
do
year,
lemon water every morning.
as we're going through this season, this fall change, is also great to start with hot water with lemon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's non-negotiable. Is hydrate before you caffeinate.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you've got to sleep.
Oh
Studies
yeah.
show that sleep increases your body's resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep also increases your immune system, like by
Mm-hmm.
6 times.
Wow.
Sleep is huge. So having some type of rhythm and system to sleep is a great idea. One of the big ones, and I'm not putting these in any special order, but gratitude.
Oh
You
yeah.
got to get up and say, "This is the day the Lord has made."
Yeah.
Whatever you have to say, whatever you believe, but
Mm-hmm.
when you open your eyes and you're able to walk, trust me, I see people that are in so much pain, either
Mm-hmm.
physical or emotional, and you've got to think about what type of gift you do have every
Mm-hmm.
day. I'm able to walk. I had that bad accident 6 years ago where I had really a solid 6 weeks, and it was questionable initially when I couldn't feel my legs if I was going to be able to walk again. I try
Oh
not to
wow.
go into that thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but it happens because we all go to fear and
Mm-hmm.
what's not working. I encourage you to think about what's working in your life.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are healthy. They're not on drugs, because some parents are struggling with kids are addicts,
Mm-hmm.
or my kids not threatening suicide a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on right now, but there's a lot of good. You just
There is
have
a
to
lot
look.
of good.
So those are my top three non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
A fourth one means you got to get live food in your diet. You got to have vegetables. This
Mm-hmm.
is the
I love
time of year when
vegetables.
you're probably yeah, this time of year you're looking for more cooked vegetables as
Mm-hmm.
we go into the cooler seasons and the transition.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do is take a hot bath, Epsom salts.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
That's a
go
great detox, I've read.
Well, it's got magnesium in it, which is a muscle relaxer.
Yeah.
I always say to myself, this is how I combat having Walgreens and CVS on every corner. That's a place I can get Epsom salts. So
Uh-huh.
that's how I combat it. I get a card. Um,
Yeah.
so those are some tips. But we have a snackable deck. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Um,
I've got what you dropped. You sent one to me, and I so appreciate it. It's
yeah, it
so
looks like
cute.
this: 52
Yeah.
well-being snackables.
Hmm.
Um, that people can go on a journey and add some of these habits to their life. If you want to transform your life, just think about what's a small thing I can do, whether it's once a month or once a week, and start embodying those habits. That's what I've done. That's how
Hmm.
I've transformed my life from being a chubby girl, not so happy, and
Hmm.
with major gut issues. I've transformed by making these small changes.
Hmm. Well, I was going to ask you too. Speaking of gut issues, do you carry probiotics that you recommend?
Oh, well,
Probably tons of them.
If you've been to Mexico with me, I take probiotics for the whole crowd.
Yeah.
Because because you need those good bugs to help combat the bad bugs that we may
Mhm.
pick up in other places, or even here in America. But yes, I do believe in probiotics. I also love getting probiotics through my food, like through something like sauerkraut or
Uh-huh.
possibly a yogurt. I use a non-dairy yogurt. So
Uh-huh.
there's ways you can get it, and there's also ways to try to manage your gut and not have as much sugar.
Yeah, I
Sugar.
try not to eat any sugar at all. I try. It's
That's why you
hard
have
though.
beautiful. That's why you have beautiful skin.
Oh, well,
So yeah,
thank you.
I do like probiotics. I don't take them all the time. Like I'm going to tell you, I've not taken one probably in the last 60 days.
Okay.
Um, but as I if I feel like it, I have some around and I
Mhm.
take them.
Yeah.
I would say the other non-negotiable that I would be totally remiss if I did not mention is vitamin D. You
Uh-huh. I
really,
take that every day.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great time if you've not had your
Mhm.
vitamin D check. This is a great time of year. It's the highest it's going to be because
Uh-huh.
you have had the most sunshine you're going to have coming off
Uh-huh.
summer. To check your vitamin D, like I'm getting fresh labs next week, so I can kind of see
Okay.
what my numbers are. And
So can you do that at your place? Do you do that?
you can do it in my place or ask your doctor. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I did too. But vitamin D, and if you're not on a blood thinner with K, it's important
Mhm.
for your kids. Here's some studies on it. I just was reading some research last week about it. It's huge for COVID prevention, or if you get COVID, your
Mhm.
recovery time.
Or also zinc.
Yeah, zinc too, vitamin D, but yeah, vitamin D
Mhm.
is probably the number one supplement
Oh,
you can
okay.
take for just general health. It's good for your
Mhm.
hormones. It's vitamin D is actually a hormone. It's good for immune system.
Mhm.
It's good for cancer prevention.
Oh,
So good for bones. Yes, you need to maybe take it with some other things, but based on your own
mhm.
makeup.
Right, exactly. Those are awesome tips. Let's see here. And then let's see. How did you overcome some challenges you maybe had in that challenging year of 2020? I mean, I know you probably had to limit, maybe you couldn't see patients for a while. And I mean, it was challenging for about everybody, I think.
Yeah, I think the hardest part was the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is I'm a first responder at some level. I'm going to call it second responder because I'm not a fire
Okay.
department or I'm not an ER, but I'm a
Uh-huh.
second responder. So we didn't shut one day.
Oh,
We had
good.
to shift
Okay.
like everybody else. I took the first few weeks off because I was having stinking thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I kept hearing every morning, my spirit would say, Michelle, you've got to find a rhythm to have resilience. And so
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, what I did is I started giving. I started being a
Oh.
go-giver. I started a series called Building Rhythm and Resilience,
Uh-huh.
just started putting the right thoughts in my mind. I
Uh-huh.
exercised more. I upped my different vitamin regimen that I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I reached out to people. So good news is for me, COVID was not as horrible as for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Bad news is a lot of people are suffering. A lot of
Yeah.
people, yeah. It's going to be fascinating in medicine the next 15 or 20 years as we recover um, from the mental health crisis, but also for people
Mm-hmm.
who have COVID or who
Yeah.
had COVID and they have long-standing issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, or people they've lost loved ones, from COVID and the effects. I have to say, I think that that year was extremely hard on the elderly. Talk about loneliness and isolation. I mean, I've seen a lot of elderly people that didn't maybe die of COVID, but just of the effects of being isolated and just
Lonely. Go back
yeah,
to that word
very
lonely.
lonely, sad beyond
Yeah.
belief. You know, yeah, we were fortunate too. I mean, we're first responders, so we didn't miss a beat either. So we were really blessed. But there were so many businesses that were affected that it was truly a tough year. That's one of the reasons we got into this business because we thought it was recession proof. I didn't know to look ahead of COVID proof. No,
Mhm.
I'm kidding, but no, seriously, it was a blessing, you
Yeah.
know, for people that got to stay operating. But well, any final words for the audience, or just that you'd like to say, or
Yeah, we're getting ready to go into our kindness campaign that we
Mhm.
launched on October 14th. It's a free campaign. You can
Uh-huh.
find out about it at smallchangesbigshifts.com. I
Hmm.
think /kindness, but hopefully it's on the front page.
Hmm.
That's not my lane. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, which is also a little bit one of Dr. Yenny's quotes. Um, and you may be somebody who says, I don't have that outlook. I don't have that prosperity. I don't have that network. I want you to think about what you do have. And Theodore Roosevelt said, do what you can with what you have, with where you are. And so wherever you're at in your loneliness journey or your well-being journey, your self-care journey, take the next step. Take the next step and just knowing and have belief that that step will lead you to the next step, which will lead you to the next step, which will lead you to the next step. And then here we're going to be in 2022 or 2025, and you'll say, holy sugar, my life has changed. I took the next step.
Right, exactly.
So do what you can with what you have, with where you are.
Yeah. And then how do people reach out to you? Like your website is drmichellerobin.com, I believe.
Well, that one actually, the one it's smallchangesbigshifts.com. You know,
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've got an identity issue between Your Wellness Connection and Dr. Michelle Robin Small Changes. But you can also find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. But just Dr. Michelle Robin, you'll find me one way or the other, and I'm not hard to find. And like I said, if you send me an email at mrobin at your, no, excuse me, scratch that. That's my identity issue. If you send me an email at michelle@smallchangesbigshifts.com, I'll be happy to send you the E-Factor book.
Okay. Well, I so appreciate you being a guest on my show. And I just am really proud of all you do. You help so many people be better people. Not only are you good to people, you help people to be better to themselves, good to themselves, right? Hopefully.
Well, so many people have been good to me. I'm just giving back.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing. And I just totally, love you and respect you. And, I'm so thankful that you came on my show. So
Thanks for inviting me. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. And I hope that toe keeps healing.
Oh, it will.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.